And we're just going to give it a few more minutes as we see people still joining in. So another minute or two, we will start the webinar. Thank you very much. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining. Forrester and Oro, really thank you for joining the webinar today. My name is Moti Danino. I'm the CEO here at Oro, and I'll be the moderator for the event today. Forrester and Oro are very excited about this webinar, which discusses a very important and relevant topic in the digital commerce, which is sell enablement in digital commerce. We have two great speakers with us today that I would like to introduce to you. And first, I would like to introduce Joe Sisman, Senior Analyst at Forrester. Joe helps e-business professionals assess, improve, and optimize their B2B digital commerce experience strategies and technologies. As part of the digital transformation team, Joe provides practitioners lens to help organizations deploy the economics of a digital commerce to unleash the best-in-class outcomes. Thank you, Joe, for joining us. I also would like to introduce to you Yoav Kutner. Yoav Kutner is a founder and CEO of Oro Inc., the company behind Oro Commerce, Oro CRM, Oro Marketplace, and Oro Platform, business application that that enable B2B commerce businesses growth. Yoav has over 20 years of e-commerce experience in both B2B and B2C. As prior to founding Oro, he was the CTO and co-founder of Magento, where he led product and technology development for all Magento offerings from inception until after its acquisition by eBay in 2011. Now that we intro the speakers, let's dive into the agenda for today. So the speakers will talk about and will cover different topics, starting with the post-pandemic digital commerce landscape, customer experience and business growth, talking about sell enablement strategies, some of the sell enablement tools that can support that. We'll present some case studies, and we will have a Q&A session at the end. You can all see the Q&A icon at the bottom of on the control panel. So please use it to submit any questions, and hopefully we'll answer all of them at the end of the webinar. So without any further introduction, Joe, please take it away.
Thanks, Moti.
Okay.
All right, hi everyone. I hope you and your families are staying safe and comfortable, and thanks for taking time today to hear about enabling your sales team in the context of your digital commerce program. In 2019, 85% of executives held the view that digital was a nice to have and this helped them get to sleep at night. But by this time last year, those 85% heard the COVID wake-up call every hour of every day, and even still to today. And it was more than adjusting to work at home. It was about taking care of customers who couldn't leave their home. And it was about the competitors who were able to take care of your customers where they were. And we know it's not just the competitors we need to worry about. It's all the other digital experiences your customers encounter in both their professional and personal lives. And in 2020, they were having a lot of digital experiences. The industry experienced 10 years worth of e-commerce growth in just the first 3 months of the pandemic. You're looking at more consumers as well as business buyers turning to e-commerce and experiencing just how good or bad brands are at delivering on digital. We saw a loyalty shift between the best digital experiences and a corresponding investment in customer digital experiences. And those experiences aren't just coming from the usual suspects. When we surveyed online adults, 45% indicated that they are interested or very interested in purchasing directly from a brand that makes a product rather than a retailer or a marketplace. For years now, Forrester has been writing about how B2B buyers are behaving more and more like consumers every day. And some of this is generational preferences of the millennials. 73% of millennials in the workforce are involved in purchasing decisions. but it's not limited to millennials. The boomer CFO is now designing and ordering her new convertible online without ever visiting a dealer showroom. So any way you slice it, you are increasingly selling to buyers with consumer-grade digital preferences, and they're levying those expectations on you. But they still need you to be there for them in person, so to speak. They still have complex problems, and they need experts to help them identify the right solution. Every 2 years, Forrester conducts a study on B2B buying, and the pre-pandemic results indicated that 42% of all B2B sales go through a vendor sales rep. Why? Well, because many products aren't a fit for pure digital selling. Buyers have complicated pains that require complex solutions and review from committees. That study also indicated that another 42% of all B2B sales go through a combination of rep-assisted e-commerce and self-service e-commerce. In fact, more than 30% of B2B technology buyers already make their initial purchases through a digital channel. So does Forrester expect these ratios to hold or continue trending? Well, to answer that question for your own business, we have a model that you can use right now. See, most businesses offer a range of products that address a range of business problems. So use this grid to segment your product portfolio. That horizontal axis is the complexity of your customer's buying process. So in other words, if one field tech can buy one replacement part, that's low complexity. But if your buyer needs to get support from her peers, and approval from her upline manager, and then the go-ahead from a governance committee, that's high complexity. And the vertical axis is complexity of the product. And you can think of this as the amount of knowledge your buyer requires. And this one is affected by the particular individual buyer you happen to be working with. Then once your products are on the matrix, overlay these 4 boxes the way you see them here. See, these are your selling motions that you'll apply to your customer's buying motion. And this will tell you the ratios that you can expect for your business. And with some user research and journey design, you can build self-service e-commerce experiences that handle what today require assistance from reps. Offering your customers all of these methods to buy from you is called an omni-channel selling strategy, and it combines the best of online and offline. And it's key to building a future-proof e-commerce strategy. So that's the strategy component. Now we're going to talk about the opportunity and some of the common pains in B2B e-commerce and what you can do about them. But first, a reminder. You're looking at a formula behind Forrester CX Index, and using this model, we estimate the total business impact for a firm that improves its CX score by 1 point. And we do this for 18 industries. This model quantifies the business benefit of having a loyal customer. It calculates the potential revenue from improved retention, enrichment, and advocacy loyalty. See, getting customer experience right leads to loyalty, which is retention, enrichment, and advocacy, and that drives business growth. Getting customer experience wrong, however, makes things go in the other way. And that translates to pain not only for you, but it translates to pain for your customer as well. That's because friction leads to mistakes, delays, and decreased purchase confidence, and all that erodes loyalty. And keep in mind, these are your customers' jobs. And you know how you react, maybe just internally, when suppliers let you down or make things harder than they need to be. When you streamline your customer experience, it allows buyers to easily research, select, and purchase from you. It lowers your cost to serve them so that you can focus more on acquisition of customers that buy more from you and remain your customers and tell their peers good things about you and avoid you needing to replace them. Again, this is a complex world with complex buying and selling dynamics. And in a world like that, customer experience is the ultimate business differentiator. That means it's mission critical to meet and exceed customer expectations at every step of the journey over any engagement channel and in every conversation. That's why enabling sellers is so critical, even in a world of self-service e-commerce. See, it's an and strategy, not an or strategy. So deploy it with care. Because the strongest project participants can hijack customer relationship management, turning what was a business initiative into a technology architecture project or a political land grab or a mire of conflicting objectives. There's no wonder that sales leaders struggle to deliver experiences in line with customer expectations. A recent survey highlighted a set of landmines that often get in the way of digitally enabling sellers. These are things you should be on the lookout for and avoid in your own rollouts. Half of respondents said they didn't have a formal change management program in place. This makes a working environment of chaos. 58% said their implementation projects started before streamlining the existing processes. So what's the use of doing substandard stuff faster? 31% didn't ask for employee feedback, so they're blind to the chaos that they're perpetuating. And half said that their organizations are dealing with mismanaged duplicate data, which impairs the visibility they need to make the right decision at the right time. And all of these landmines drive friction into your employee experience and distract your highly competent sellers from being able to deliver a great customer experience. So let's take a look at a couple real world cases. Your business case for omnichannel commerce relies on your sellers putting the tools that you bought to use. And they know a day in the life of a seller probably better than most, so listen to them. Overcome adoption issues by letting employees influence functionality. Sell them on the benefits while also listening to their needs. And make sure the tone at the top is aligned with the rollout strategy. That's because employees look to the leadership team's behaviors to determine which activities they value. So very carefully plan in order to facilitate the behavioral changes you need across the organization. Because there's so much still opportunity. When we look at other survey data focused specifically on manufacturers, we find that there's still opportunity to leverage digital. Marketing decision makers at manufacturing firms who employ a sales model that uses direct revenue say that just over 35% of their revenue comes from online. That's e-commerce, e-procurement, EDI. And that just over 25% comes from digitally enabled selling. But combined, over 44% of their revenue comes from what is currently offline. So there's still opportunity for manufacturers to use digital to improve different types of customer experiences. And customers increasingly want to do this too. They want closer relationships, and they want to be treated as partners. Modern B2B buyers expect to be treated as partners, not targets. They want connected experiences and route choices. They expect providers to work with them on a set of shared goals throughout the entire customer lifecycle. And they want access to digital tools themselves. They want experiences that are immediate. Your modern buyers are going to expect you to be present and proactive in every moment. As one digital leader told Forrester, we've completely revamped the way we engage, moving from a tactical approach that's reactive to how people interact with us to what's more proactive and prescriptive approach based on what we know about context, contact, and the content that interests them across multiple channels. When your customer interactions are digital, you can not only implement your solutions faster, you can measure how they actually lead to customer value. And that allows you to make data-based decisions on what and how to improve next. Okay, so we covered strategy and we covered some common pain points. So now let's talk a little bit about where you should invest. Once again, a reminder, that B2B consumer we talked about earlier has 4 expectations of the experiences that they have with your business. They expect to be treated as partners through experiences that are increasingly connected, open, intuitive, and immediate. So are these concepts completely unfamiliar to any sales pro? No, they're not. But Forrester breaks them down this way so that you can apply them to the digital experiences you create to engage customers across any channel, direct or indirect. Now, doesn't it seem intuitive that a great salesperson knows how to create an intuitive customer experience in real life? Again, the goal here is to equip sellers with the strategies, tactics, and tools they need to do that in a digital world. So, with your buyer's expectations in mind, let's look at where to invest. 3 things. First, hire experienced e-commerce experts with a background in consumer e-commerce. That's because they bring a sensibility that you need to do primary research of what buyers want and whether you're delivering on it. And second, invest in adopting design thinking and integrate those practices into the way you imagine, validate, and deliver digital experiences throughout the entire customer journey. And third, build all this on a robust and adaptable platform. Digital-first go-to-market strategies require new operating models, and this is what future fit B2B sellers are now incorporating into their businesses. But those robust and adaptable technology platforms can get complex, and they can be challenging for your teams to assemble. Commerce Suites, however, allow you to sidestep the work of building and maintaining your own platform. There's a lot of vendor content out there on the internet talking about flexibility and how it can enable you to do anything you want. And while it's true, sometimes you just want to buy a car, not build a car. And that leads us to what's best fit for you. Forrester has assessments to help businesses gauge their level of digital maturity. And when we cross-reference that with our research on the e-commerce vendor offerings, we find that suites, the all-in-one packages, are best fit for businesses early in their digital transformation. Why? Because those businesses rarely have hundreds of modern cloud-native developers. So modern suites pre-integrate their components so that you can focus on a post-COVID world and devote your attention to realign for the current times. I'm Joe Sisman, Senior Analyst with Forrester Research, and now I'll hand it over to Yoav.
Thank you very much, Joe. All right. So again, thank you very much, Joe, for this insightful information about the need for sales enablement in the B2B e-commerce implementations and digital transformation that companies go through. I'll try to talk on the kind of the approach or what we're responsible for as the platform in this side of the equation, and what kind of tools we've been building to enable the sales team. And with that, I'll just start quickly about why we even created Oro and Oro Commerce, and why do we feel that there's room for a platform that's actually built from the ground up for manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers, and multi-channel brands. The reason for that is that I don't think I can read the screen. Oh, okay. So the reason for that came from our experience prior to creating Oro. We created a company called Magento, where we created the B2C e-commerce platform. And a lot of the differences between B2C and B2B are very fundamental in terms of what a platform should build and create in order for a B2B company to be successful in this transformation and going online. And of course, if we look at B2C e-commerce or commerce, many times that's an impulse buying, right? Some buyer will go online looking for maybe a pair of sneakers, do some search, find something they like for the price they are okay with, and then go and order that. And as a platform, we were trying to create this intuitive, one-size-fit-all approach, user experience, buyer's experience, have him check out as fast as possible for the highest order, average order amount. And we usually looked at a single decision maker. There was one shopper at a time. They were buying either for themselves or for somebody else as a gift. And we also learned that those relationships are usually very short term. Usually buyers in the B2C scenario are very one-time buyers. Usually, unless you're in Amazon or eBay, the relationship was not really deep with the customer. It was a one-off kind of relationship. We also noticed that fixed pricing was the kind of the way everybody was doing that, one price for everybody. Maybe you use coupons. Some business models on websites supported VIP pricing or group pricing, but usually everybody saw the same price. And of course, direct payments, meaning in most countries today where credit cards are available, a credit card is the main payment way, and the payment is done either immediately when the order is placed or, of course, as the item is shipped. But when we started looking and learning what the requirements are in the B2B space, we learned a lot how to change the mindset. We learned that we were dealing with customers that go through this process of buying. They're not very impulsive about this need that they have right now. It's usually a project that they got into their company. They're looking to source materials. They're looking for a vendor on the supply chain part of this project that they sold. And this is a process. We've seen that many times these orders take maybe days, weeks, and even months to actually be submitted fully. So this is something that we had to adjust in the way we building the user experience for your customers in this point. We also saw that there were multiple decision makers. Again, not unlike the B2C where there was one person putting in the order. Here, there might be multiple team members that are involved in submitting an order. Maybe there's a whole group of buyers. There's a manager that needs to approve whatever they want to buy. Maybe there's a project manager even involved in when they can actually source the materials, etc. So it's a much more group effort, if you want to say, when coming to submit an order. So again, a completely different user experience that we have to build for these type of customers. And of course, long-term relationships. Once there's a buyer-vendor kind of relationship, those tend to stay in place for a long time. Once you kind of establish this relationship, there's a reason why they're staying with you as a vendor, and they really have to have the kind of customer or user experience that they're looking for as a customer in order for them to stay and actually use your digital platform if you're offering one for them. So again, it's a long-term relationship versus a short-term relationship. And of course, their own individual pricing. So we're looking at pricing that they negotiated. We've seen use cases where different projects within the same customer might have different pricing. We saw that different branches of one customer might have different pricing, et cetera. So again, a much more complex pricing model. We have to support multiple pricing lists and pricing books, et cetera, to support your different customers. So again, a much more complex implementation for pricing. And of course, the delivery and payments are completely different expectations than the B2C, where again, we are seeing more and more credit cards being used in B2B, but we still see that most of them are relationship kind of payments where there's a credit line or there's terms, et cetera, and the payments is done even post-delivery. So again, a different complete experience. So all these put together, we really noticed that we need to kind of adjust the way we are building these platforms and in order to actually build the user experience for your customers. But that said, that's on the next slide. Sorry, if you can switch it. Yep. On that, one of the biggest points that we kind of learned was that in B2B, and we completely ignored that when we were building B2C platforms, is that there's two sides to the B2B. There's a B on each side, and we have to take care of both of them. And that means that, yes, we have to invest a lot in the customer front-end experience and all the expectations to allow buyers to actually be able to use your platform that you built for them. But we also have to adjust and build for your sales team and enable them in order to kind of compete, in order to adjust to the way customers are actually expecting to interact with a company, to put in an order, to negotiate pricing, to do some research. So again, we had to invest a lot into the company or the seller side of the equation of the B2B. And that's something we really felt that was underserved completely in other platforms that were targeting B2C e-commerce. So we really invested a lot in this. And if we look into, sorry, if you can go more back, more. Yeah. Go. So if we look at products that and features that we actually built into our platform to actually enable the sales team, well, a big part of what they're doing, if it's face-to-face today or if they're trying to go online with a digital platform, is kind of moving their experience that they're giving their customers in negotiating pricing and quoting and moving that to a digital process. And that means that they really have to kind of mimic their experience that they're doing today with the customers in an online fashion or a digital fashion. And having that kind of built towards how they are used to interacting with their customers will make sure that this is a successful transition, both for your customers, but mainly for your sales team, where they're feeling comfortable that they can still give the customer experience that they were giving to their customers before. Of course, a big chunk of that is how they manage the leads and opportunities in the system and manage that. And of course, having the pipeline. So that allows you to track how they're doing, how the pipeline looks, and actually performing. And what we learned is that, again, in these 3 points, no businesses are like, there's some secret sauce that every sales team brings to the table. That's the reason this business is successful in their industry, et cetera. So we really need to kind of get that DNA that the company brought to their customers before and have that flexibility when we go into the digital. And like Joe said, maybe if you're starting, you can use our off-the-shelf or out-of-the-box features, but we do want you to know that you have the power to actually customize the parts that are very specific to your business, making sure that you provide this user experience for your customers and of course for your sales reps that they can actually continue that. So therefore, we're enabling them to continue this user experience that they gave before. And as such, we also add other features that allow you to track the customer interaction with your company. So like, for example, case management, where if the customer has any issues with the orders or your products, you can actually see that. And we start collecting all these interactions that the company has with your customer. And we provide these tools for many different groups within the company. It can be the customer support, customer service, marketers to create marketing efforts, but especially for your sales team. So once they actually interact with the customer, they now see in a single place everything that the customer is interacting with the company. They can sense if the customer is having a good relationship with the company, maybe they have some issues with the previous orders, and adjust the way they're interacting with the customer. So giving all this power and really creating what we call the 360-degree view of the customer, and this power to the sales team to work well while they're interacting with customers is very important to look for in a platform that's built for that. And we, of course, want to really make the sales team efficient. So we add productivity tools for them where they can create tasks, record phone calls, etc. So we really want them to have one system that actually provides them all these functionalities in one place. Again, we are doing implementations where there's other third-party systems as well. And again, we might do that, but as long as we give this experience where they can actually see all the data in a single place, make them have this data available for them when they need to make decisions for customers, that is what we found to be very successful for those type of implementations. So quickly, I just want to share with you one of the case studies that we've been working on for the last few years. Animal Supply is one of our customers. There are a pet goods distributor, one of the biggest ones in the US, established or founded in 1987. They have about 7,000 retail customers with about 15,000 retail outlets that they actually support. They operate out of 21 facilities, with 10 of them already providing e-fulfillment. And they have about 1,300 employees. So again, not a small operation, and something that was actually pretty challenging for us to start implementing for them a solution. And when we were brought to the table in order to kind of help them and kind of see where we can even ease a lot of what's going on there, we noticed that they're growing very, very fast. And as such, they were acquiring a lot of new companies, and with that, new technologies, or when I say new, I mean very antiquated technologies at that point, and different technologies. So when we were brought in, they had about 4 different ERPs that they had to work with, again, from companies that they acquired during their time. And today, by the way, it's 6 already. And what happened in reality was that as a customer, you had to know if you're putting in an order form, manual order form, to write which ERP you want this order form to go into, because the ERPs did not have the same products. They sometimes had the same products for different pricing with different availability, et cetera. And that, of course, confused completely the customers, but on the other hand, also confused a lot of the sales reps. And that made a lot of the errors happen when the orders were keyed in. A lot of times in face-to-face meetings or in conferences, conventions, they found that they're truly struggling to put in the orders correctly. That caused a lot of friction with the customers and with the customer experience that they were creating for the customers. So what we did for them was create one platform that actually was smart enough to know exactly how to distribute the orders and work with the different ERPs, but remove this need from the customers and especially the sales team to actually know all this information. So they could focus on the sales process, enabling their customers either through face-to-face meetings or online to actually be successful in using this digital platform. And that started helping them be more efficient, the better user experience from the customers, and of course from the sales team. They were much less frustrated. Orders went in much more easily with less errors, et cetera. So again, really enabling the sales team to be more efficient and more successful. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. And what we saw there, that acted as an accelerator to convince a lot of their customers to actually move to this digital kind of platform. Again, no more conferences, no more conventions for them, where they were taking actually the bulk of the orders, and all that had to move online. So just in the first few days, weeks, we saw about 200 new customers move to the online platform. And again, having the sales team being already trained on that enabled them to actually use that and scale and provide this customer experience to the new customers that were onboarded. And that also translated to better sales. I'm sure a lot of you will notice that one of the industries that got actually a boost from the pandemic was the pet supply industry, because a lot of people were adopting pets and while they were staying home. So that industry was actually booming. And for them to be able to actually support that growth was very much a key for them to be successful during these harsh times for many other businesses. And we did notice about 20 or 19% increase in digital sales as well, if we looked at Q1 of 2020 versus 2019. So that was, again, something that we were able to scale as a platform for them, which was really successful. But this also was a key because their sales team was already trained on that, and they were able to actually absorb all this new order volume that we're getting, versus if they had to do that manually, that would probably be the bottleneck of the company. So using the digital platform we created for them enabled them to continue scaling up and being able to serve all the customers that were now moving to digital. That actually caused a lot of confidence in the management team as well. And now they're continuing to invest in that and continuing this journey of transforming the company to digital. And that's something we're really proud of, being with them and supporting them along the way with that. So with that, I would like to give it back to questions, and I'm here for any questions that are thrown my way.
Thank you, Yoav, and thank you, Joe, for the presentation. Really great information. We have questions coming in. So I think the first question would be for you, Joe. So the question is, so would you say that before implementing customer experience program, a prerequisite would be to implement an employee experience model?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, there is a relationship between them. We find that if the employee's experience is problematic, you're really at a disadvantage to deliver a great customer experience. But these are both programs. They're not necessarily projects. And so it is a project type concept to say which one comes first, as opposed to a program that's ongoing. So they will have interrelations between them, and the needs on the employee side will change over time as the customer experience needs. So I would say avoid doing one in a waterfall fashion before the other one. You want to make sure that they're running concurrently and in very close
market. We have a very strong view about CRM and how it's interrelated with commerce, but maybe you can shed light on this one.
Yeah, it's a really good question. In fact, Kate Leggett and I are doing research right now on the convergence of DXP and CRM. And here's how we're thinking about it. Both of those systems need customer data. Okay, and if you just sort of take the question of the system of record of the customer data and set it aside for the moment and just say there's customer data, what you find then is the CRM tools are largely sales rep facing, and the digital experience platform is largely customer facing. Now, some industries, and let's just say like brand or retail, short purchase cycles, most of the interaction happens within the DXP. But now let's take sort of longer sales cycles, characteristic largely of B2B. A lot of the sales interactions happen with a combination of digital and interacting with a sales rep. So kind of need both. So the answer to is one converging one way or the other. I would say it's more of having a nuanced conversation about why you need CRM tools to support your sales reps, And then what digital interactions need to, in real time, respond to signals for purposes of personalization, and a CDP will give you extremely low latency to that data to make decisions upon it, whereas traditional CRM really, they weren't built for that type of low latency. So I hope that sheds a little bit of light on the question. I know I didn't hit it straight on the nose, but I think it's a nuanced topic.
Yeah, I tend to really agree with you, Joe. And we did develop a CRM as well, and we have our CRM as a product. And we actually see a CDP as a part of the CRM in that case, but I completely agree with you that this is something that you need both. I don't think one will replace the other. And definitely, if you look at the part that we built that allowed the enablement of the sales team, that will be under a CRM more traditionally. But for them to be successful and develop all this 360-degree view of the customer, we need the CDP part of that as well. And they today have to go hand in hand, right? I mean, a lot of the decisions are made on the fly based on data, especially for if you give these tools to a sales rep when they're sitting with a customer and knowing if this customer is happy or not. I'll put it in high level, but I'll go through the relevant data that's relevant for you, giving the customer experience. You're on the front line as a sales rep, but many times with the customer. And the data that you're armed with is what's going to allow you to create and maintain this customer as a customer for many more years. So I think they have to go hand in hand as part of the strategy for digital transformation for a company. I think, again, CRM is a very loaded term, meaning that a lot of times it's just referred to the pipeline management, right, and the sales management tool. But we are seeing that today's more modern CRM are taking the CRM as a true data kind of a platform for your customer, or as we call it, the data repository of your customer interaction with the company. So I do think they have to go hand in hand, and definitely the same part of the strategy for digitizing your business.
Thanks. Thank you. There's another kind of question raising an issue or concern that maybe both of you can weigh in on. The person says, as a major manufacturing supplier to pharma, biotech, and university/government, we are typically interacting with our customer via third parties such as Ariba, Jagger, Coupa. This platform seems more concerned about the buyer needs and less about the supplier. How can I engage this platform as a supplier to learn and leverage their technology, new functionalities, and ultimately reach more and more end users and increase overall adoption? It's been my experience that platforms are not there to help supplier with this at all. So any insight from you guys? Joe, if you want to start, or Yoav?
Yeah, you're right. Those e-procurement platforms are sold to buyers, and they're sold to buyers in order for the buyers to get spend governance. So, if you look at other like marketplace channels, and let's just say Amazon Business, that is, sort of a very, very simple e-commerce or e-procurement platform. That's just the reality. Now, how you can do better? Well, you can do better with great product content, great product images, and a lot of these platforms have, think of it as like a scorecard of how rich and complete your content is, and that'll affect search rankings. So there are some levers that you can pull to appear better on these buying surfaces, but you're never going to have total control like you would with a first-party channel.
Yeah, and I'll add that, again, we're seeing implementations that we, traditionally we would only see e-procurement that now need the B2B e-commerce side of it as well. So again, the e-procurement are really focused on the buying and integrating into their buying platform for the buyers, but that doesn't establish a relationship, that doesn't allow to extend the relationship, upsell, renegotiate pricing, start a new project necessarily, if some of them don't support that. So we feel that, again, many times to give the holistic kind of approach and customer experience, you need both approaches. And many times I didn't mention it before, but many times we're actually referred to not as B2B e-commerce, but as customer portals. And that means that when a customer cannot do something anymore, he wants to go somewhere, right, that he can self-serve himself without necessarily calling in a meeting or going on a phone line. And that's where we come in and kind of augment the features that a lot of these e-procurements give. And again, when everything is set, when everything is done, when we're just repeating the same thing over and over again, these platforms do great. Anytime there's something that is out of their comfort zone, that's where we come in. So some industries, some businesses where e-procurement is the way to go when there's a lot of recurring orders and stuff like that, we augment everything else. And we come in when the customer needs to interact with the sales team, interact with the company, and then it's when we actually build this holistic solution. And again, today in today's world, they might have to go hand in hand and not just one or the other. So really good question that comes from the real world, and we see this happening today as well.
Thanks, Yoav. Just there is a note if from attendees if they'll get a copy. Yes, you'll get a copy. So we'll send it to you directly. No worries about it. The next question is more directed toward Oro, Yoav, and it's talking about B2B marketplace. If the profit scheme of B2B marketplace is to take a percentage per transaction or certain transaction, how can this be achieved on Oro? Maybe, Yoav, we can also talk about kind of selling enablement in marketplace connected to this, which we see with our customers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about marketplaces and specifically B2B marketplaces, the sales enablement tools now can be, again, kind of almost like an added value or a selling point for a marketplace to onboard sellers, right? Because now you're providing these sellers with some powerful tools that most traditional marketplaces don't offer today. So all these tools we talked about for your sales team now can be applied to your sellers on a marketplace. And that's something that we are enabling those sellers now to have data, to have access to conversations with customers. Some of the features we talked about, like negotiating pricing for a specific customer. A feature that we have that we kind of worked on was that we can have open bids where sellers on the marketplace actually bid on the same RFP, if you want to say that, in the marketplace. So again, we are really enabling them with tools that we created for in the B2B e-commerce scenario for sales teams, but now we offer them also for sellers in the marketplace. So again, a lot of this enablement is very relevant for B2B marketplaces. Specifically about the business model of taking a percentage from sales, that's actually pretty straightforward, believe it or not. That's something that most payment gateways that we are partnering with and integrated with offer almost out of the box. So a lot of times the hard part of this is actually onboarding sellers so you can pay them out. That's where we see the most difficulty. But again, that's something that's handled in the US for many platforms that support the US, in the EU and in the UK. It's a different story. It's a bit harder. But again, a lot of platforms support the onboarding of sellers and being able to pay them out directly through those platforms. So actually, surprisingly, that part is pretty easy. Believe it or not. The part that is harder is something that we want to kind of work on, and that we are actually actively working with other partners, is actually offer the same kind of experience that we talked about before with term payments, offering a line of credit to those buyers on a marketplace kind of platform. And that's something that is seems to be a little bit more tricky right now, and something that we're working with some of these partners to achieve those kind of business models. And I think that's going to facilitate a lot more transactions happening through marketplaces in the near future. So something we're really excited about to roll out in the next few months.
Yeah, and we have a lot of questions coming in through the Q&A and the chat. So the next question is for Joe. In your maturity model slide, what are the criteria to decide whether to move from headed or even double-headed to headless?
Oh, yeah, that's great. Let me say this first. Modern e-commerce platforms have APIs that connect the experience layer to the back-end transaction. And they can actually ship that front-end experience layer with the commerce backend. And so you can buy a modern platform that you can use with the head that comes with it, but then you can also write your own iOS app that connects to those very same APIs. And so the headless versus headed isn't always a conversation about whether the vendor can handle it. Again, it's the modern vendors that have modernized their apps that have APIs, and whether those platforms come with a front end experience layer or not. It depends on the types of experiences that you want to build and whether the bundled experience layer is good enough for those. So it's a very nuanced question. Now, the other thing that I would say is, if you're going to sort of, let's take the example of the iOS app. Let's just say that you're all in, you're not going to have web experience, you're just going to build iOS apps. Well, you have to have iOS developers. And if you're not prepared to do that, then you probably can't go that headless. And so the maturity continuum is looking at yourself, understanding how operationally all of your teams collaborate, and whether you have an agile dev team that can keep up with building out these experiences.
And again, I'll second everything that Joe said. Just from the real life experience we're having right now, is that it's not an or, it's an and. We have to support both as a platform. And many times we're consumed within the same project, both as a complete application with our own front end, but also at the same time as a headless application as well. For iOS, we actually mentioned Animal Supply. They have 2 mobile apps, one for their buyers. So while they're walking through their aisles in their stores, where they can just point and scan and order and reorder. And then one for their sales reps, where they can use an iPad or an iPhone in front of a customer. And those are built in a headless fashion, yet the main website is still using our technology in our front end. But I think today the line is very blurry. As a platform, we need to support all these, and like I said, multiples of those at the same project even. So this is not anymore, do you support or not? It's a necessity for a platform to support all the deployment options that you will need to consume the application and to make your customers and sales team successful using them.
There's another question there that it's directed to Oro, but I think we should take it maybe in more general to all platforms. How important do you consider it is to, prior to implementation, Oro Commerce or any other platform in this matter, to go through a consulting phase in order to really define and land a clear objective of the project?
Maybe I'll start this one, or Joe, go ahead.
I guess what I would say is, if you go to a paint store, you probably should have planned the picture that you're going to paint before you go to the paint store. And that applies equally. You can't just drop technology in an organization without a plan of how you're going to use it. So you always need some level of consulting to understand the business problem you're going to solve, and make sure that you actually have understood the business problem such that whenever you plug something in, it'll solve the problem.
Yeah, and I'll definitely add to that from our experience, and this falls under change management and training, et cetera. So this is something that we're actively participating in as the platform. And of course, our network of system integrators are doing a big chunk of this work as well. We're not talking here necessarily about just adding a new channel or experimenting with a new channel. We were talking a lot of times in B2B about modifying or replacing your existing sales channel. And that is a very scary thought for many businesses. And if planning is not part of this, this might not be successful. This has to be a process where we go through and talk to, when I say we, anybody implementing this again, to talk with all the stakeholders, to actually interview different departments and parts of the company, different roles. So sales managers, sales leaders, sales reps, customer support, et cetera. It's something we really have to kind of work with multiple parts of the company in order for this to be successful and have them buy in and be able to actually use that. So again, just going back to the CRM example, when we look back at CRM implementations, many of them just didn't do that, right? They just implemented a CRM, a pipeline, and nobody used it because it didn't help in any way facilitate what they were trying to do on their day-to-day. So this is the same thing we're trying to avoid today with e-commerce and digital commerce. We really want to create a platform that actually works for the business. If we just come and slap the same features that we used on a different project, it might not be relevant to the company we're coming to. There might be different priorities on what they need right away and what they can live with in coming in 12 months and 24 months, et cetera. So we really need to build a plan. And like, let me give a quick example. Many of the companies we come to don't have a digital catalog even, right? So their products are not indexable, searchable online today. And that might be the lowest hanging fruit that we can come and do. And we can do that in a few days, right? Weeks maybe. But the sales process is something that is so involved and so unique to their industry and to their business, where you don't want to move that quickly before you really understand how to approach it. Maybe do it in a phased approach, maybe have only a small segment of the customers actually try it out and give feedback before we're ready to kind of turn on the switch for everybody else. So again, I think it's not an all or nothing. It's very unique to every industry, every business. But again, there are some low hanging fruits that we can help and move very, very fast on, and others that take a bit more time. So again, the kind of consulting phase is pretty much a must. And again, I think the partners we work with, the industry that we're coming to, I think start to understand that. It's not a quick solution like just, I'll say it in kind of maybe demeaning manner, but it's not by any means. But you know, in B2C, we figured it out, right? You can start a new B2C store today in minutes. Everything is set up for you, everything, right? And you just upload your products and you're ready to go. That's not where we're at still at B2B. And I think there's a lot more involvements that need to kind of be learned and scaled up with the company before we're ready to fire everything in one day. So I think that is a good question.
Yeah, I think we will finish with the last question. I appreciate all the questions that coming in, and we'll finish. I finish with the question that it's another hot topic, and it's a marketplace. And it's for both of you, Joe and Yoav. When you have a channel strategy to boost distributors, what is your opinion on develop a brand marketplace platform with B2B and B2C focus, where distributors and resellers could sell our branded product? Could it jeopardize customer experience?
So the way I'm imagining this, the value chain is based on the question is, I have a brand and I want multiple other distributors to sell, basically to market and sell my stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's a couple things. You could also view that from the lens of a drop shipping program. So, you know, one way to look at the difference between a drop shipping program and a seller selling third party through a marketplace is, ask yourself, which of those companies is in charge of the product information, the branding, and the pricing? And oftentimes what you'll find is, like, a retailer would write their own or make modifications to the standard, you know, brand's product description in order to appeal to the customer that the retailer has. They may also adjust price. That's great. And then they sell it, they send the order over, and it's drop shipped. When a brand is selling third party through a marketplace, they control the imagery, they control the product description, they control the pricing. It's a huge, that is a very relevant difference between those two models. And so, you know, asking the question, is there a risk of a bad customer experience? You know, there's a risk that you could make a wrong customer experience, but if you pay attention, you can also detect mistakes and quickly resolve them. And so there's a case to be made that you can actually trial and error and course correct faster when you're doing third party selling through marketplace, much more so than you could if you're doing like wholesale resell down a 2 or 3 or 4 tiered distribution value chain.
And again, great, Joe. And I think what I can add from our experience is that many times this channel, the way it exists today without a centralized marketplace that it's branded by the manufacturer, for example, actually already delivers a very bad user experience. I'll argue that. And we're looking at some industries, again, not for all industries. I think no two industries are alike. But one industry that we're very familiar with, for example, is the pool equipment industry, where it's really relying on the channel, right? Where the installers / the suppliers, they're actually selling the products. And the connection between the end customer, in that case, the B2C, or if it's a B2B, again, we can talk about the commercial washers or stuff like that, where we also have experience with. Owning that relationship, actually, in the end, like Joe said, with trial and error, you can actually provide a much better customer experience than you had before. Because before you were relying with very little or none connection to the end customer, B2B or B2C, and relying on the supplier to provide this customer experience that represents your brand. Today, there is more data, there's more involvement, you can get feedback back from those customers and actually mitigate any bad experience that they had, much more than before. So I would argue that if this is set up in the right way, and again, I'm not saying this is an overnight thing, many industries, this is gonna be a process, but having the actual brand as part of the relationship now actually makes the brand and the relationship to the end customer stronger and a better customer experience. So on all aspects, I think it's demanding from the brand itself, but it's also demanding from the channel to up their game, right? There's more scrutiny, there's more visibility on what's going on, and the end customer can provide more feedback. So again, I think overall, if we look at it the way we've seen these being implemented, it actually creates better customer experience in the end. Again, we might go through some potholes on the way, but definitely the end goal is to create a better customer experience. So I would say this is a good time to invest in that.
Great. You know, we got to the end of the webinar. I think it was a great webinar. Thank you for the engagement and the questions. I think it was a very interesting topic that, you know, obviously by the questions shows that it was, and we're happy that it seems that we this webinar delivered value to you and increased your knowledge and awareness in this area. So thank you very much. Thank you, Joe Sisman, for joining us. Thank you, Yoav Kutner. Appreciate the knowledge and sharing the experience here. And thank you, everybody who joined in. And looking to have meet you again at some other opportunities. So thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.